Hi everyone, my name is Zuri Buckman, and it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our final speaker, Rabbi Rafi Lipner. You all very well may know about Rav's unbelievable long list of accomplishments and contributions to the Toronto Jewish community. He is the founder of the house and currently the new senior rabbi of Shaarei Tefillah. But what you don't know is why he really does it all. Why he shifted his focus from being a high school teacher to dedicating his time to developing numerous community developments. All of this with a growing family that is currently equal to the starting roster of a baseball team, 7 kids in total. How is he able to accomplish so many things in so little time? Well, you're going to have to listen and learn the values behind what drives this Toronto leader. I met Rav 2 years ago after my husband Noah introduced me. I couldn't believe that after 14 years, he, alongside all of his friends, still spoke of one truly inspiring teacher that had and continues to have such a great influence on their lives. I was instantly mesmerized by him, mesmerized by his confidence, mesmerized by his warmth, mesmerized by his ability to make you feel so comfortable within seconds of meeting him. He, fortunately for us, officiated our wedding, and I will be forever grateful to him for honoring us on that day, and grateful for the standard he has set for all men and women to reach and attain. So without further ado, everyone please welcome Rabbi Rafi Lipner.
Thank you. So I usually listen very carefully. So I listen very carefully that I've heard by going into business, apparently you lose your hair, so I'll stay in the rabbinate. I've heard that apparently Ed has discretionary $300,000 fund that falls off the table. Unfortunately, the one thing I did not listen well to was the advice I gave Orit on the day of her wedding. I said, Orit, whatever you do, make sure you bring white wine, because red wine, she's like, what, was something wrong with red wine? It's not, no, it says it stains. Unfortunately. But luckily I brought a tie. It's really actually a very difficult thing to think about what drives you. I think listening carefully to what Ed said, you think it's a run-of-the-mill talk and you've been up and spoken many times before, but when somebody really says, and I think the way I positioned it to both of the gentlemen, you know, what would you want to tell your kids, your grandkids, if they were sitting on your knee that was really important to you and that they would really remember? And you do a lot of talking and you speak to a lot of people and you meet a lot of individuals and everyone's really interesting. And when you're actually faced with, wow, what's really that important to me, to my wife, to the family, to the life that we build, you kind of take a step back. So I'd like to share 3 ideas that I think propel me and keep me focused. Number 1 is, I think, and speaking to the gentlemen that are here as well, and probably everyone here, is that we have to remember that ultimately, I remember what makes us great is not really what we're good at. What makes us great is what we decide to do with that which we are good at. A lot of people, everybody in this room, was blessed with skills. I remember when I was in business school and I used to be in New York, I was walk around Wall Street with a briefcase just because I wanted to feel like I was somebody, like it was exciting. I would read the Financial Post every morning and I would have this one professor that I remember was the hardest professor. He walked in and the first thing he said, there were 2 professors in our university, one which was an easy A and the other one which was an unknown. He was new. So everybody tried to get the easy A guy. I registered late, I slept in. So I get the other guy. The first thing that he does when he walks in there is he says, by the way, you'll be lucky if you get a 70 in my course. I wasn't lucky. But he did sit down with me one time, and I remember him saying, you know what, listen, everybody focuses on what they're going to do, what they're going to do. But he says, how many people out there look in the bleachers in this classroom, really think about why they're going to do it? And it made me think a little bit, you know, you're blessed, everyone's blessed with a skill set, and you have a very short time on this planet to utilize that skill set for good. So the first thing that I think drives me or makes me think and take a step back is not really what am I good at, but what is it that I do with that I am good at. And I think we all have that challenge. The second thing that I think, actually, I can probably tell you by way of a story, is how do we then decide what is it that we could do with what we're good at? So I'll tell you a story that happened with our first child when we were hardly a roster for a baseball team, but just a, I don't know, what can you do with 3, Parcheesi or something? So Azaria was approximately 1 year old at the time, and I was still teaching a chat. And I had to run into a room in the class, and unfortunately our babysitter wasn't around. I had to bring Azaria to school. Chat let us do it back then, so I have Azaria, I have a box of papers that I have to bring in. I can't bring them both in simultaneously, so I leave Azaria in the car and I bring all the papers in. No, I'm kidding, Fran, I was kidding. You let him have 7 kids? She's about to say to my wife. So I leave the box in the car and I bring my son in. And I remember there was a young lady, I remember her name, she got married a few years ago, and she starts to fawn over my child because Azaria was an adorable, adorable child from the second he was born. The second one? Oh, I shouldn't say this on video. Okay. They're all adorable now. So, adorable, she starts to fawn over him. Oh, so cute, and I actually needed her. I needed Michelle to hold Azaria. But he wouldn't go to her. So I take out of my pocket a loonie. And I hand it over to Michelle. She's like, Rabbi, you don't have to pay me to do this besides the loonie. I'm like, I'm a teacher, Chad. Meanwhile, hold this scene. So Michelle's telling me, why are you giving me $1? And meanwhile, there's been a bunch of other students. There might even be some here who are fawning around also looking at Azaria. So everyone's going, oh, what a cute kid. Michelle's saying, Rabbi, what's with the $1? And my son, what he's doing at this moment is as the loonie is going through the air, right? If I can quote a movie, I don't have a TV and I haven't seen a movie in 3 years. They're too expensive with 7 kids. But I remember there was a quote back in the day when I could afford to go, right? Show me the money. So Azaria's looking at this loonie, like he's transfixed on this loonie. And everybody's weirded out by this because I'm a rabbinic ethics teacher, right? And they're seeing my kid all of a sudden get so excited about this loonie. And all of a sudden he knows approximately 10 words at the time. He knows Ima, Abba, and like poop and pish, parents, and like, you know, bowel movement things. And the 10th word comes out, money, money, money. So excited. All of a sudden I have the glare of approximately 30 of my students that for 7 months I've been telling them the importance of ethics and what's important in life. And here's my kid, money, money. That's the only word he knows. And they look at me, you hypocrite. And I go, shh. I say, prepare to be utterly embarrassed by a 1-year-old. And they go, and then my son starts going, Daka, 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 Forza Daka. And then puka, 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 for this Indian, for pushka, for a pushka. And I said, think about this. You guys have been in Jewish day school, some of you for 13 years. You're educated, you know what Jewish values are. And the first thing that you see when you see money is greed, purchase power, selfishness. I said, my kid might be one, and it might be thanks to a tape from this guy named Uncle Moishi, who's not really our personal uncle, he's everyone's uncle, who sings a song about give a little tzedakah. I said, my 1-year-old sees money and he thinks sharing, giving, helping. I said, I have a challenge. I have to make sure that as the years go on, I'm sorry to say this, they don't turn into your lens, but he maintains the lens that he has. So the second thing is, and I think where we get that from, and the reason why I said I teach, and the reason why the house was founded, is because I believe that everything we look at is neutral. All our skill sets, all our talents, all our assets, all the value that we have, they're all just neutral. The more we study about the potential of what they could achieve, what could I do with that which I'm blessed with, that lens, that critical lens will define what it is that all of us do in this world. We'll have 2 lawyers that might be in the same cubicle side by side, but live in totally different worlds because their lenses are different. Just like if I had different lenses, I would see things differently or not see at all. But if I have the right lenses through life, and if I study to be able to articulate those and understand them, that's the second stage. Number 1 is knowing what I'm good at and realizing that what I do with it makes a difference. Number 2 is realizing that in order to really get that clarity, I got to read good things, I got to study good books, I got to have strong discussions. This, to be honest, I can't speak in my house hat, is one of the most special places in Toronto right now, with over 200 young professionals trying to figure out what's important in life, not just how do I move up the corporate ladder. And I hope it's true. Ed said he was excited that this evening he wouldn't be stuffed with 45 business cards like every other event you go to, because people, I think, at their core want more than that. The third piece is what I think really drives me, our family, is that once you realize you've got certain skills, and once you realize you have a certain lens on what you can do to really make your life meaningful, you realize that it's not a prerogative, it's not an option, but it's your purpose. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. You realize that the ability to make a difference, the ability to get involved, the ability to do something that transcends just taking care of your own family, but really inspiring yourself, your family, and others to do things that are meaningful, you realize, I think, and I still have a few years to go till I hit my 90s, not that you guys are anywhere close also, I still have a few years left to work, but when you sit back and you look and say, hey, what was it all about? You realize that those things that you look at are really, what did I do that was really good? And I think that as the years go on, as the house develops and as I develop, as we all grow up, I think we always want these new challenges. And just like Noah said so beautifully, it's nice to hear that the next generation carry on the same messages. Right? The idea that we hope every day we walk out a little bit more than we were before we walked in. Every experience we grow a little bit, or like the bottom of my email, a quote from Rabbi Nachman, which I think is at the core of my values, is if tomorrow we're no better than we were today, then what need have we for tomorrow? And hopefully, with evenings like this, individuals, like these two individuals, and the future individuals like all of you, I think that ultimately every day has so much potential. And if you ask what really drives me and why you do it, is it's hard to sit back and say, yeah, you know what, I can just sit down, watch another hockey game, go to the movies, not for relaxation, but like consistently. Right? But to realize, I think even a guy like Ellis, and definitely a guy like Ed as well, would realize that if a person has the opportunity to sit there and say, today I'm going to carve out some of my day to do something that really is going to derive meaning, they would probably be the first at your side to say, you know what, I think that's the right move as well. So I want to thank everyone for the opportunity. If there are any questions, please feel free.
Thank you so much, Rav. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, Rabbi. Thank you for coming this evening.
I had to. I put it on. So.
I work in a place where it's very strict on business. I'm having trouble thinking to myself, what can I do tomorrow when I walk into work to inspire minds, to be ethical, to treat people better. Help me. What can I do in a place that traditionally doesn't have ethics involved in the day-to-day work? What can I do to enhance the business that I work in?
It's a great question. I'm fortunate because my entire life is surrounded by teaching and living and inspiring and being inspired by others. However, I challenge you. I think actually you live in an environment where you can probably express Judaism better than I can. I don't think Judaism was ever meant for the synagogues, although synagogues are important. I wouldn't have stepped into one if I didn't think that that really has part of the future of the Jewish people to create communities and families and ongoing inspiration. I believe deeply in synagogues. But that's probably not where Judaism is expressed. That's where it's solidified. They tell a story of a person who was a ritual slaughterer. This is a very sensitive topic, actually, because Chai Chickens just closed down, apparently, so we have a lot less barbecue chicken wings over the weekend. But they have an individual who used to work in the kosher Schlachthaus. And one day he goes up to the rabbi and he says, you know what, Rabbi? It's too much pressure. Everybody's chicken, whether it's kosher or not, is on my shoulders, and there are all these rules, and I can't deal with the pressure. So he says, so what are you going to do? I'll go into business. I'll lose my hair. I'll go into business, right? Thanks for catching that one, and no one else did. I'll go into business. He says, so come with me over here. He comes over, and he says, you know what these volume of books are? He says, yeah, these volume of books are the books about how to kosher prepare chickens. He says there are like some 50 chapters, all these details, and every rabbi's got 3 opinions. He says, this is too much pressure to know. He says, so what do you want to do? He says, I want to go into business. He says, come with me over here. And he shows him books that are about 7 times the size in chapters. He says, these books, which are called Chosh and Mishpat, He says, these books deal with how to be a Jewish businessman. He says, you think it's hard to be a Jewish rabbi? He says it's a lot more challenging and at the same time a lot more fulfilling to be a Jewish business person. To realize that the ethics and the values that we have, I do believe, come at every single moment, every interaction. Integrity and honesty, all of those things are values that get expressed, and very often, and you probably all know better, right? I just hear from students about how difficult it is or how draining it is, or I have to sometimes cheat a little bit in order to get ahead because that's what they expect, especially when you're on the bottom of the totem pole. Like Ed said, when you're at the top and you're the big guy, at that point people don't mess with you, and if you want to have integrity, they have to have integrity, but in the beginning stages, you probably get challenged more than ever to be that. And that integrity at the younger years, I think, probably challenges you daily to do that. And the hope is if a person perseveres, then hopefully they build into that integrity person that can sit and stand up here like these individuals and give that information and that advice as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. So I wanted to get some input on a thought-provoking conversation I was having earlier tonight. We were talking about the importance of philanthropy, and as one of the speakers tonight said, the Jewish people sometimes tend to punch above our weight class. We do okay. So as someone who wants to make positive impact in my community locally and in the Jewish community and in the world, I struggle with knowing, well, I'd love to, you know, I benefited from a lot of Jewish help growing up, my family, my community, but at the same time, there tends to be people that may be suffering more than the Jewish people by and large on average. So where should we be giving our tzedakah?
That's a great question. That's a great question as well. I think Jewish values are something that should inspire a person to give and be as much as they can. I don't think Jewish values means just taking care of the Jewish people. I believe the Jewish people, I'm actually not concerned about the Jewish people. I'm concerned about the individuals who are Jewish, about whether they really reap the benefits of what Jewish values teach. But a lot of times what I think we do, and I think I might answer your question roundabout, is we try to connect people to their Jewish values by saying give to Jewish causes. I actually think it's in the inverse. The connect to values should make a person a giver at core, and then at everything that they do they start to give. The more I feel value, obviously, within my Jewish community, I'll want to give to it. Meaning I invest in my children's school, not because it's tzedakah, because I believe in the value of Jewish education. And I'll invest and give my donation to the UJA because I believe in the value being able to disseminate funds for the Jewish community. My Jewish values drive my ability and my desire to want to give and to support those things that I think that have value. What I do think is a caution, I have to say, and maybe this is a little bit controversial, is that if all we are is our ability to give or our social conscience, I think eventually we're going to lose the drive for our Jewish values, because you don't have to be Jewish to give. And you don't have to be, you don't have to be Jewish to be a good person. And that ultimately I think the Jewish values that we have inspire our giving altogether. But like anything, when you sit on an airplane, again, haven't been on one for a while, flying with a baseball team is not a cheap endeavor. But when those gas masks come down or those air pressure masks come down, it says first you have to make sure that your lifeline is secure. Right? If your lifeline is not tethered, not secure, then ultimately that which propels you or enables you to go ahead and give everything you can to those around you won't be there. And I think the more a person nurtures their Jewish values, I think the more that they'll end up giving not only to the Jewish community, but they'll see the value in giving to the Jewish community because those values are important, and then ultimately give as well to all the other causes also.
That's a beautiful analogy. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. Ellis can't ask a question. He can ask. I guess he can.
I was actually coming up here to thank you very much, and since you were complaining about the price of movies, I've got movie passes for everybody in the room. So, and if we run out of passes, make sure all the 35s and younger get them, because I know for sure you guys are going to eat lots of popcorn and soda.
Anybody want a Talmud also? Okay. What do you say? Who's closing up the evening over here? Oh, one more question. Sorry.
Yeah. I think you were touching on it when it comes to our progressive values. I think we all sort of share similar attitudes. But of course, our community is very fragmented. And some are more traditional than others in their definition of what the purpose of our faith should be, whether it's tikkun olam or segregation, because that does exist with a lot of Jews out there. They're called Orthodox, Hasidim, or whatever. I was just wondering, in your perspective, is there dialogue that we should be having with other factions of Jews who believe in the different future of our people, or do we all fulfill a distinct role?
I love that question. I do love the question. First of all, I see Ed is talking about giving people property throughout Toronto also. Right now, they're discussing that. Don't leave early or else there's issues going on. I might not go to the movies, but I do have a mortgage. A big one. As a result of the question, I'm going to stand on a soapbox for a little bit because I'm very proud of the house. I find that our community, one of the greatest things that we suffer from is our divisiveness. What I love about this room is that knowing maybe 30% of the people here and the diversity that exists, that we have so much more in common than we do that's different. The one area we seem to not be able to get together on are things like this. When we discuss and learn Jewish values and Judaism, there's too much sensitivity around there. I think that one of the greatest things we can do to bring that bridge is to bring people not by skirting the issues, but by really bringing people into respect to discuss and to grow together. It actually, I'll be honest, over the past 5 or 6 years, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, in the beginning it's tough. People try to push you around. Oh, you really want this? Oh, you're really going to be like that? Wait, are you going to, right? And people have their guard up. There are a lot of people that want to try to change people out there, right? I call it the bait and switch. Come on in, we'll give you a drink, and then, I'll go ahead and I'll put a little Torah in your drink, right? It doesn't taste that good in the drink, but I think there's a lot of that because a lot of people don't believe in the authenticity and the beauty of Jewish wisdom in and of itself. If you really thought that it wasn't there to change, but rather to help a person realize their potential, and that it was about sharing values that we all share in common, then you could really be upfront, just like this. This is an amazing feat. To have 200 people together and the cell wasn't free alcohol is an amazing thing. You paid $45 to get your drinks. Bad joke. Right? Right? You came here really for the cell of what it was. Right? Ultimately, the analogy that I'll leave you with is that I think it's kind of like a map. That a lot of people within the Jewish community, I find, they want to give you different destinations. You're going somewhere, and they say, you know what, how about you go somewhere else, a different destination? I think what Jewish values and what Jewish wisdom is supposed to do is saying, you know what, we all have very similar destinations. We want to feel fulfilled. We want to feel happy. We want to feel like we spent our time well. We want people to respect us. And Jewish wisdom and values are supposed to be saying, you know what, here's a map that gets to the same destination, but maybe there are other ways to get there, alternative routes, right? For example, the relationship series we have at the house, right? It's not about changing a relationship, it's saying we all want good relationships, and we all know that 50% or whatever the ugly divorce rate is, saying maybe Jewish values has a different roadmap. That doesn't talk about what stream are you, what color, yarmulke do you wear or don't you wear it. It's about certain destinations we all want to reach. Yeah, we can spend the time fighting over the 1% that divides us. Or we can have communities like this, where you have 99% are all on the same page going in the same direction and trying to help each other get there by sharing their collective wisdom as well. Hope that answers it a little bit.
With that, I think we can definitely thank Rabbi Rafi Lipner for his very inspiring talk. Thank you, Rabbi. We do have one more quick speaker. I do want to take the chance to thank both Ed, Rafi, and Ellis for giving us your Sunday evening, and for all of you for giving us your Sunday evening together to be inspired by what it means to be Jewish. So thank you, everyone. We have closing words from the educational director of the house, Rabbi David Pardo. And as well, we have some dessert back inside if you'd like to stick around and keep mingling. And we do have some sweet sushi and other desserts. Sweet sushi is Rice Krispie squares. It's really cool. But on a more poignant note, Rabbi David Pardo.
I have the honor of closing the night and the displeasure of following 3 wonderful speakers. Clap is to encourage me. I wanted to close up a bit. I just wanted to mention before what the house is. Welcome to it. It's a nice house, isn't it? House is about inspiring Jewish minds, and we are really in the business of rekindling and reigniting a Judaism that provides a purpose and a meaning. And we do that in all sorts of ways, and you'll find in your little pamphlets and upcoming programs that you're all invited to that hopefully add value. I wanted to share actually a story that I shared recently. I recently came back from the March of the Living. We were, I don't know, it's a weird thing to clap for. Hey, okay. It's difficult. How was it? Oh, it was awesome. And we went to the Gensha Cemetery, the cemetery in Warsaw, and I actually had the opportunity to share this bit of wisdom, this bit of rabbinic teaching in the Warsaw Cemetery, in the vicinity of a grave of an individual who took this particular piece of wisdom very seriously in his youth, and in his old age became a profound change maker and a leader who's probably shaped Judaism in ways that affects you on a daily basis. The Talmud, the Jewish book of wisdom and debate, relates the following. It actually tells us what happens when you die. Well, rather, it tells us what questions they ask you when you die. So it turns out, after 120 years, you live a good life, and you pass on, and you float up to the white pearly gates, so to speak. It's not a free pass. They actually want to know a couple things. They have a couple questions. 6, apparently, according to the Talmud. They have 6 questions that they ask you, and they want to know more about your life. They want to know more about you. What kind of life did you live? What was important to you? So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, Rabbi, 6 questions. I could probably put them together. We're in heaven, so something about God, right? Did you believe in God? That's probably one of the questions. It's up there. Maybe the 10 Commandments. Those are important. Maybe they want to know if you went to shul. They probably want to know that. And charity. They're going to ask you something about charity as well, I assume. And give me a little more time. I could think a couple more, right? Anyone know the first question? The first question they ask you, sorry, it was rhetorical. I cut myself off. The first question they ask you is, Nasata v'natata be'emunah. Did you do business faithfully? Were you honest in business? Really? That's the first question they ask you in heaven? Is it about your 9 to 5? That's what they want to know? Turns out yes. And as crazy as that is, the second question is, Kavata itin l'Torah. Did you set aside specific time for learning Torah? That's number 2? It only makes it to number 2? It's so central, so critical, so crucial to Jewish life is learning, is constant learning. And that only makes number 2. Number 1 is, did you do business faithfully? So it turns out that these final questions are really final lessons, right? These 2 questions provide us 2 more questions. One being, how did doing business faithfully make it to seat number 1? And question number 2 is, how did setting aside time for learning only make it to number 2? So I want to propose that the final questions are really final lessons. And the first lesson is this. You know what? I don't care how righteous you were on Yom Kippur. I don't care how Jewish you became suddenly when you went to shul. It's not so important to me how Jewish you were at the Shabbat table. You know what I want to know? You know what really matters? How Jewish were you at the workplace? How righteous were you at your 9 to 5? How much did the grind you down? I want to know. That's the lasting question. I don't want to know in those particular moments that you set aside to be the lofty individual that they're going to talk about at your graveside. I don't want to know about that. I want to know the everyday. I want to know the 9 to 5, the mundane. Did you make the ordinary extraordinary? And then the second question makes so much more sense. Did you believe that your life is dedicated to constant learning and constant growing? Or did you say at a certain point, I know enough, and I'm a great person, and that's all there is to it, and stopped? Because if you said that at some point, if you said I'm a finished product, then you're wrong. And that's the second lesson. So in summation, the two questions are really 2 final lessons. Making your work life part of your personal mission life, and believing in a lifetime of learning and growth. Those are 2 final lessons, but they don't have to be final lessons. And that's why the Talmud tells us now. And that's really, I hope, the theme of this evening. On that note, I want to first off thank the speakers. I want to thank Ed and Ellis and Rafi for sharing wisdom with us. And moreover, as at least the two of them who are involved in business can tell you, the most valuable commodity is time, right? No one can pay you for your time, and they gave us their time. I think our obligation in return is, since they gave us their time, we have to reciprocate by taking their messages with us, going out there and doing something with that. So thank you to you all. I want to thank the two people who didn't get thanked because they were the ones doing all the thanking. I want to thank Noah Buckman and Steven Shedletsky who really put this all together. It's really amazing. It's really amazing that a small idea, that a little chit-chat can really turn into something like this. It really just shows the power of goodness and creativity. And last of all, but not least of all, I'd like to thank all of you. You know better than me all the kinds of things you could be doing on a Sunday night. Instead, you've decided to take your Sunday night and invest it in learning, growing, and learning how to make your ordinary extraordinary. You've passed the test. Thank you. With that, in conclusion, I think we can all say that we're walking away a little bit more than we walked in. In conclusion to my conclusion, I'd like to both invite you to pick up your program sheets and take them with you. We have some programs coming up that we'd love you to be a part of. If you really felt inspiration tonight and want to channel that into somewhere, check something off and say, that's something I'd like to be a part of. I'd also like to remind you that this entire event was the brainchild of these two wonderful guys. And a lot of our most powerful events really come from the ideas of participants. So if there's something cooking in there that you guys want to share with us, we'd love to hear it. And lastly, in conclusion to the conclusion, please join us for dessert inside. Thanks.